Anyway.
Where does Missy? Where does Missy?
Where does Missy?
Where's Missy? Where's Missy? Tell me about this Missy. Where does Missy?
Hot the requested opening to the podcast. Well done. Who requested that?
Oh man, I knew you were gonna ask me, and I probably should have written it down.
Well, if you're out there, sicko, who asked for that,
TMs,
throw your name in the comment.
It's another Mike, and I won't dox the individual, but it's yet another Mike. We've got a lot of Mikes in the orbit of the Toronto Till I Die mothership. So yeah,
just a land full of mics. A land full of mics.
Yeah, so many mics.
Yeah.
Just a barrel of mics.
Well, welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, everybody. We are still
Indeed.
the Toronto FC fan show. Like you, we watched the game on Saturday night, and frankly, I have no idea how any of you stayed awake because that thing was a snooze fest. Really up until like the last 5 minutes. And even then, whew, man. Your TFC come out of the weekend with a 1-1 draw against Chicago Fire. We will talk about that. We'll also talk about generally how these last two games may go. Because probably next time we talk to you, well, when we next talk to you, the season will be over. And at that point, we'll either have an idea on whether or not this team is going to live to decision day or whether or not they're cleaning out the lockers and holding season-ending press conferences a week before the season ends. Bringing in my co-host Jeffrey P. Nesker. Buddy, this is a wild way to end your season, but hey, at least it's going down to somewhat of the wire for TFC.
Yeah, I mean, next time we see the gang, we'll know if where Messi is and whether or not he made the trip. Turts, I'm not gonna sell you out, but most of us made some money off the resale market there. I guess I'll open it this way. They need the points. This is grass, not turf. So I think he's coming.
I think he's coming. 100%.
Yeah, so do I. So do I.
I think he's playing. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm just doubly glad now that I convinced my wife to let me go see him at Camp Nou in Barcelona in 2019 on our honeymoon, because had I sold if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't have sold my tickets, although to say nothing about peer pressure and everybody else making money. And I also really like money, but I'd be a lot sweatier if and that's sweaty in the old school world, not the like Gen Z sweaty, which is like something to do with video gaming or something.
Yeah,
he'll be back in the playoffs though.
No idea.
I think Messi's coming. I'm going to table he'll be back in the playoffs because I pulled a Mikey Singh and I added 3 questions to the end of our rundown, and I'm going to ask you some questions about that. About the game. Woo! Yikes.
Yeah, look, it's it was it was a snooze fest for the most part. Let's be real, it was. But TFC do come away with a 1-1 draw, which a lot of the times we would probably be very, I would say positive, but at least you're saying, hey, you come away with a point on the road. That's usually a good thing. But when you're looking for 3 points, when you're looking to try to build some space between you and the teams you're chasing, not a good one, especially when you did have a chance to win it. And in the end of the day, you look back at that game and you think about, look, you're missing obviously one of your DPs. You're missing a few players that you would prefer to be in that 11, but that's pretty a strong 11 as you could probably put out right now for Toronto FC. And
absolutely.
And really, I think Chicago took the game to TFC. I was actually surprised. I thought TFC would come out a little bit more like they normally do, a little bit more on the front foot, but it felt like Wednesday night took a bit of a toll on them. What do you think?
Sure did. I mean, I only have one heard word because he answered in essay questions. I mean, I don't think there was a clip from that press conference that went under 2 minutes. And it was a lot of the same old, same old. And this sort of axiom. I mean, it's turning into an axiom now, but 3 games in 8 days. Totally unsustainable for a championship team, unsustainable for TFC, which is decidedly not a championship team, an absolute horror show. And I don't know what the answer is, because it doesn't feel like anybody gives an S about this fixture congestion. It doesn't feel like the league they play in gives an S. It doesn't feel like, you know, CONCACAF gives an S. It doesn't feel like FIFA gives an S. It doesn't feel like the soccer gods give an S. So, you know, what do you do? And I, you know, I'm already thinking to next season, but like, what do you do? We know that this is happening. We know that we're probably the worst league in soccer because of our cap, et cetera, et cetera, to create teams that can handle this kind of fixture congestion. But god damn, am I getting sick of the refrain, you know? Like,
Well,
sure,
that's a world football problem. This is a world football problem.
But I think it's an even bigger problem in MLS because because the salary cap creates the absence of depth, right? Like it's a challenge and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Like, how do you create the kind of depth? Because, like, you're right, you're not playing against Chelsea and their loan army, right? Like, you're playing against other MLS sides. They have the same issue, but like, still, all you're seeing is gaffers and pundits and everybody and players and everybody that isn't Don Garber and his cadre saying this is completely unsustainable. This is why we're seeing football of this quality. You know, the sickos can argue about it until the cows come home, but the casual fans that everybody's trying to capture, you know, they don't need the preface. Well, you know, this was a shite game because A and X and Y. No, it was just a crappy game. I'm not going to watch it again, to say nothing of the fact that they have to find it on Apple TV. But it's like, it's just so, it's just such a corner to back yourself into. You know what I mean? And the fact that nobody saw it coming, you know, everybody just said, hey, Apple will take your money, la, 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 la. It's the thing that I brought up days ago at the tail end of our show when I was talking about my misunderstanding of that Olivier Giroud article, where, you know, some player in LAFC's locker room was like, and the way he takes care of his body, and immediately I took it as like a unilateral kind of insult against the quality of play in MLS. But at the same time, it's like, you can't call yourself smart if you drive your car directly into a brick wall, right? That they're mutually exclusive, right? So it's like, what has been done to prepare for this? And here comes Turts once again. The league is moving in the right direction with the extra U22 rule. I agree, but it's yet more roster shenanigans, and you know, U22s are going to anybody that's coming in saying, oh, well, you know, the solution to fatigue is young players, doesn't understand how young players work, right? Like, they're going to get injured more often. They may be able to run forever, but they're also going to blow their ACLs out, you know, doing stupid young people crap. So I'm getting really sick of because I watched a lot of press conferences. I watched a bit of MLS or 360 this week, and the lament about this fixture congestion and about teams playing multiple games in a week is not something that's exclusive to TFC. It's rampant around the league. What is the league doing to protect it? Because I don't want to hear it anymore, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah, but look, it's again, like I said, it's a world football problem. It's not just an MLS problem, right?
Sure. I do think there's peculiarities that are unique to MLS.
Yeah, there are, true, right? Because it doesn't stop during windows and international windows and things like that, right? But look, in the end of the day, that's kind of what TFC and the rest of MLS needs to deal with. And there are teams that find a way to do it, and there are teams that effectively find ways to build quality depth within the structures of the insane salary roster rules that this league has, and do it quite well and do it quite consistently. And that's something that was on full display, I think, for TFC on Saturday, right? Like a team that really has, again, kind of a strong 11 that can at least compete, right? You may not win every game, but you're going to compete. You're not going to be like last year where everybody just downs tools and as soon as something bad happens. But I think you also can see the fact that because there hasn't been a cohesive plan, a solid, cohesive through line plan over the last couple of years, because we've been chopping and changing managers and then GMs, and then obviously Bill Manning was president, but he was kind of hands on, hands off, depending on the situation. You end up having this kind of Frankenstein, frankly, kind of, and not compared to Man United, but that's kind of what you see out of Man United right now. A team that is just a Frankenstein team full of players that kind of play, one way that Ten Hag wants to play, but you still got some players from the Solskjaer era, and you still got, right? So like you really don't have and look, I know people get sick of the word rebuild, because you feel like this team should never be rebuilding. It should always be reloading in some ways.
Sure.
But
that's the way you want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But like the reality is this team has to rebuild. And right now it is in year one of a rebuild where there just isn't enough quality depth to really carry you throughout a full MLS season right now with cup competitions and other things like that. So, if you sort of tie it back to this game and you tie it back to the overall theme that we have here, I think what you saw was a team that had put everything into Wednesday night, had put all the eggs in Wednesday's basket, didn't work. And now you had a team that was emotionally and physically drained. And like, it looked obvious. Like it looked very obvious. Like there were times where Jonathan Osorio was trying to close down a player on a sprint, and it just looked like
he was
absolute
leggy.
Yeah. So
exactly.
leggy. And that's what you saw on Saturday night, was a game where you could kind of throw tactics out the window a little bit. Like, look, I think Richie down the left kind of worked. Yes, he is at fault kind of for the tying goal by falling
Richie
asleep at the back post. Falling asleep at back post. But for the most part, I thought was relatively effective. I think that actually, a lot of people get on Prince Owusu's case, I think for a good reason. But I actually thought his hold-up play was not that bad on Saturday. I thought he was able to hold the ball up at times and bring the midfielders into play. And I thought overall that although, you look at the stats, like the Fire dominated possession, they had more passes, they had more shots. They basically, like statistically, they dominated the game. But I think TFC did a very good. I don't think there was anything super dangerous that the Fire did in any of that possession,
because they're not a good team.
Well, that's the thing, right?
I mean, that's the baseline. They're not a good team.
You just ran into one team that had a really great start to the season. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And Turt's brought up Michael Leach at the presser. I'll bring that up in a bit. Remind me, I've started. I mean, that's what I take out of this, is like, I can't celebrate any of what we saw in the Chicago Fire game because Chicago's a piece of ass, right? So like, Prince Owusu's hold-up play was great, but the asterisk, and it's a screaming one, is that it was against the Chicago Fire, right? Like, okay, that's great.
Teams in front of you. I get it.
No, I agree. But we look at this team under a microscope, and I said it was a trap game 2-3 days ago. It feels like we were just here. I said it was a trap game, and this was a trap game. I don't know what TFC were doing. I mean, I don't know what. Were they? I don't want to quote the commentary team because they were such loser Chicago homers,
really bad.
But
atrocious.
I mean, this a broken clock is right twice a day, and they did say it looked to them, and again, it looked, if you had eyes, that TFC were conserving themselves, which is not giving respect to this team that beat you already on the season. You know what I mean? Overwhelmingly a lack of respect. That's that. If you had to ask me to distill my feelings on this game, the stats bear it out. The sort of lineup bears it out. Putting Richie on the left. Again, he's got such utility. It's great. He can work on the left. but just about everything about the game bears it out. Where did we get so again, I'm going to call it arrogance. It's well within your rights to call it pragmatism because once again, 3 games, 8 days. But when did this team get so arrogant that they're going to look down at any opposition in this
I don't
league
know
or
if they're
anything
looking
else?
down at Chicago. I think that part of it was one, they recognized that Chicago had already beaten them 4-1 this year at home.
Yeah.
And
At
I think
home.
part of it is like, yes, I think part of it was partly to conserve themselves, but I think also they legitimately thought they had a chance to break this team on the counter, right? If you give them the ball, because Chicago, like if I've watched a few Fire games this year, and like they don't break teams down a lot. They really
They don't have the skill to.
when they score goals, it tends to be off turnovers, or they're using Hugo Kuiper's, like in terms of his height
They're
and his
smash
strength
and grab
in the
team of
box.
the highest order. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
and that's what they do. So in that way, kind of what Vancouver did to TFC on Wednesday, which was, we don't think you can break us down if we sit in a block. You could have the ball all day, and I don't think you'll score. So we're comfortable sitting deep, and we'll try to break you on the counter. I think TFC tried to do the same thing, which was, we'll sit deep, we'll try to break you on the counter, we'll try to get Fede on the run, get him the ball on the run, on the counter, where he can be the most dangerous, and then create something, right? And that's really what it ended up trying to be, which was get the ball to Fede with him running at as full pace as possible, and try to get him to create something. And that, again, speaks to a lack of depth. You don't have someone else who can really create anything for you. So you have to load up on Fede. And look, there's times where Fede, had to take the ball and try to dribble like 4 guys, and like it never works. It barely ever works. It gets close, and then you always get to the 4th guy, and the 4th guy finally gets you, right?
Fourth guy finally gets you. Yeah.
And that's really what Saturday, from an attacking perspective, seemed to be, up until the penalty, which we'll get to in a sec. But yeah, you wanted to jump in.
Because the sentence, it's down to a quality issue. So our only option is Fede ball. I don't like that statement, because I think that there are other options. They're just not being tried because of the voices in the room. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Can you say that there are no other options towards to the way this team builds an attack than just the lunk-headed try Fede out sort of thing? I mean,
it's your most direct way, right? Aside from really lumping the ball up forward and hoping it sticks to Prince Owosu, which up until it hasn't really worked that much. Who else are you on this team realistically?
Look for DeAndre in the midfield instead of looking for Fede. Let him bring it up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I take issue with this idea that there's only one way that this team can play, and that's with everybody being sort of a bit player in the quest to unlock Federico. I find it so stupid, for lack of a better word. I just find it stupid. I think it's an insult to the team, to our opponents, because they figured that out last year, how to defend against that. And I think it's an insult to the beautiful game, right? Like, there are 11 players on the pitch, right? Obviously Berna is of a quality that's higher than anybody else, but it's not working. Why?
It worked. It got you a penalty. It got you a penalty. It got you a goal on Saturday. It did kind of work.
Okay, let's say I'm the coach of Toronto FC, right? And I don't know the locker room shenanigans, and I don't know the if it's not working, I'm going to try something else, right? I'm going to play Rudy. I'm going to put Sean Astin out there, or it was Sean Astin in Rudy, wasn't it? Or yeah, I'm going to put Rudy out there, the secret weapon. Or I'm going to try field goals the whole time, just to stretch the metaphor further. I won't be happy until I've exhausted all opportunities, instead of just consistently doing this, right? It's so lame. It's so played out. And that, that's the arrogance that I'm finding here. And here comes G Money with that's the issue, Nesker. The DPs want the ball. That won't change until they're moved. DC plays the same way. Difference is their DP is a striker. Players want the ball. Forget about the DP tag. All players want the ball. It's the gaffer's responsibility to determine who gets it and when. And I just think that this over-reliance on the same thing over and over again, right? Like, it didn't work against Chicago. It didn't work against the Chicago Fire. It's not going to work against anybody.
It did work against the Chicago Fire, though. Like, it did, right?
Okay.
You end up getting the ball to Fede, and Fede gets a penalty for you, right?
Mhm.
And it's dispatched, and it was 100% a penalty. I don't know what the
Sure.
the
Yeah, it was 100. He
commentator, what
back
she was
kicked him.
saying,
It was 100%.
but it was
100%.
100%. It's like, I don't think it's a penalty.
100%.
I saw contact, but then it wasn't enough.
Mhm.
It's like, no, there was contact, and it went down. It's a penalty.
Mhm.
But it did work, right? In a sense that you got the ball to your best player, okay? Because
Mhm.
let's just Federico Bernardeschi's your best
Yeah.
player. I don't think that's a
Easily.
secret to anybody.
It's not at
And
all.
he made something happen, and that's kind of what TFC are right now. That's it. Like, what do you
A
want to
team
see?
that needs a penalty to
Yeah,
get a 1-0 victory.
yeah.
I mean, you're right. But do we have to be that team? It just seems like
No.
everybody has made the decision in the brain trust that that's who we are. And I don't think they've done the due diligence to come up with that decision yet.
I don't think that's the
Yeah.
like the brain trust being like, well, it's Fede and no one else. I think it's just that's what you've come down to this season, and that's what you've got. That is your best route to goal. And it just,
If I'm Kobe Franklin, I'm on the next bus out of here. If I've been belittled to being a
I don't think
feeder for
I don't think so.
But again, and okay, so I got two to bring up. Here's Danny's, which is the other side of that coin. If you keep chomping and changing, nothing will ever have a chance to stick. I agree in theory. Doing it now is insanity, right? Like, it's not sticking. We've tried for a year and a half. It's not sticking unless MLS replaces every club with CS Saint Laurent. It's not sticking. So this idea of the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush is bullshit. Who cares? Who cares? Chop and change, because that isn't working. So chop and change away until you find something that does.
But that's
because
okay,
this
but
blunt
Jeff, that's
force.
what we've been doing. This club has been chopping and changing players since 2021. And it's and you know what ends up when you do, when you chop and you change, you have no through line. It goes back to what I said earlier. You have no through line in the way you want to play. So therefore, you now end up in a situation where, okay, we get this really talented DP, and we don't have enough players around that player to really be able to create a ton of offense at the moment. Okay. So now you need to find ways to put him in positions to be able to help you create. And we all know what he wants to do, right? When he gets the ball in that wing, everybody
and their mother knows
what he wants to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, you saw Chicago essentially try to build a wall at the top of the 18 on that channel, trying to stop him from cutting onto his left, right? So, but that is your best route to go. That's your best.
So there's nobody else that can do anything given the opportunity. 1 out of 10, twice out of 10, because Fede is failing 10 out of 10 times. Like,
that's not
so
true.
It's just,
Jeff.
Well, okay, so I know. I'm just so frustrated, because to me it's like, just try option B. Maybe it's not a guarantee, but you won't know until you try. And I just feel like this is, here's Keith Sweat, and there's a typo that they corrected later. But why is this so hard to understand that we have no talent? I don't like that statement. I don't know if I'm prepared to say that everybody on TFC is a jobber. I don't know if I am, because I don't know if we've seen it yet. And then here's G Money's, which I think is a really interesting one. Herdman's playing the long game. He wants the DPs to have the ball because he doesn't want the DPs here until the end of their contract. I disagree. I don't think he has a choice. He
definitely doesn't have a choice. No.
He's got to play them.
And they're going to command the ball.
We can say that it's 4D chess, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's even chess. I think it's just a mess, right? Like, take out the CH and add an M. It's just a mess. So yeah, it's frustrating to me, because I see a lot of blanket statements about this team, blanket statements about their ability, about their overall quality. And for the most case, I agree. But am I ready to close the book, as some people are? No, because I think that what isn't working hasn't been working, and it's just more of the same.
So, but Jeff, that's the thing. You're going to have to close the book on this team at some point because a lot of these guys won't be back next year, right? Their contracts are
and
a
that's
lot of these
fair.
guys, their
That's fair.
contracts are
That's fair.
expiring,
Mhm.
and a lot will not get picked up, right? Their options won't get picked up. So this will be the time where we see what kind of plan TFC really have in year 2 of this rebuild of a rebuild, right?
I got here's it's so this is kind of what I was saying. This is the sentiment from TFC land. If it's Rafa's game. Look at the games where Fede hasn't played. We continually have failed to create threatening opportunities. Is that fair to say? If the team is drilled to look for him when he's not there, they look like garbage because he's not there, and they're not drilled to do anything else. If the entire tactical news of this team is, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's fair to say. I just don't. You know, and yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Like there are a lot of people that are going to leave. Life isn't fair. So much the better. Who cares? It's just these blanket statements about the team's perceived quality or lack thereof when measured against, you know, the two elephants on the pitch. I don't buy it, and I don't like binary. You know, like I'll be the first to say goodbye when I feel like the page is full, but I don't feel that way with some of the stuff that's coming out of TFC land.
Okay,
you know,
fair enough. I mean, look, like at the end of the day, I think what you got on Saturday was I think you got a very good performance out of Richie Larea up until obviously, yes, okay, the goal. We'll talk.
Pirlo,
Yes, that's true.
yeah.
But you know, aside from that, I think you got a good performance out of him. I thought you got some usable minutes out of Prince Owosu. He had moments where he drifted out of the game, had other moments where he was strong. Obviously, the penalty helps. I thought DeAndre was decent in his time on the pitch. Probably should have had a goal, but I mean, everybody was slipping at SeatGeek on Saturday, which was really weird. Check your studs, guys. You know, from that perspective. So there again, it doesn't say that there aren't pieces here. There are pieces that can be good, but right now, as a team, they're not.
They suck.
Well, they're just not cohesive. They're just not cohesive enough, or cohesive and consistent enough. I think the bigger word is consistency. I just don't think they're consistent enough at the moment to.
What do you think
really
of Danny's comment here? And I think you said it in so much other words. The problem is that this team was not built around a philosophy. The Franken team that you mentioned, you know, way back a half hour ago. There's so many players who at their best play in wildly different styles. Departures are needed to even start the build.
Yeah. I mean, you just don't have a team right now that is built under a central philosophy. I think when we think about the best of TFC, and I'm somebody who doesn't like to keep going back in the golden years. We did this right because it's you know what it was yesterday. We got to look today. But the thing about those teams were that they were built under a central philosophy. You had a person at the top that had the vision. And it was aligned with the manager, and then it aligned with the rest of the three top players that you had, and it trickled down that way. That's why that works. So when you look at a team like a Columbus or like an LAFC, or even right now like an RSL, who are doing really well. Even look at Colorado, right? The team that just beat us last weekend, right? This is a team that was built with an idea on what we're going to be. We're not going to be big spenders, but we know the type of profile of player that we want on this team, and we know how we're going to build that team out so that the structure makes sense for us to play within the league and survive 34 games and all these gaps and all that kind of stuff, right?
Colorado
right now, and I think we said it before, but can you tell me what the profile of a Toronto FC player is? Like if you could sit there and tell me what makes a TFC player right now.
But right now I would say the profile of a Colorado player for the most part is luck, because they were a team of Franken toys, right? Fraser wasn't getting the kind of budget that he wanted. They brought in Chris Armas to do essentially what we brought him in to do, and this time it worked.
Well, because they gave him tools to actually build the team he wanted.
Yeah, but different. Still, like there's a lot of that roster in Colorado that are still kind of from past regimes, right? And luck and I guess a game plan that suits the lion's share of them seem to be seem to win the day. You know, certainly when Armis went to Colorado, you didn't have every pundit in the world going, he's gonna try a what high press, gegenpress with like a bunch of 30-year-olds. You didn't have that. You know, TFC was almost at the polar opposite of Armis's philosophy,
is
right?
like under 25.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
right.
But
so that
but
it
and
makes sense.
RSL also is a team that you're still looking at a roster that didn't work under previous regimes that seems to be clicking under this
I would
one.
say Pablo Mastroeni as manager has done a really good
Mhm.
job at being able to he's been able to build a style, right? He's been able to build
Mhm.
his own style in his own team in his own way with guys who are not flashy or household names or anything like
Yep.
that. So I dismiss the notion that you need like a high profile, high name designated player from
I do
Europe
too.
to be able to win. However, this current team has that, and they are currently your best players. Let's just be real,
Mhm.
and you have to give them the ball, and that's just the way the team is set up. And we'll get to it because I know you want
Mhm.
to get to Herd's word and those 3 questions, but
Sure.
you know, your other DP does not start. He's legitimately injured. That's fine.
Mhm.
But he comes on when you need a goal. It's 1-1 and you need 3 points. And he comes on and look, like let's be real. We're going to talk about the shot that should have been a shot but wasn't a shot. He comes on and is effective, right? He gets into the middle of the box. He makes actually a
Mhm.
pretty smart little run, and I think it's
Yep.
Kosi Thompson who plays him through, and he's in. He's in alone with no
He's in
one
like
around him.
Flynn.
And I'm thinking, okay, he's either gonna blast it by the goalkeeper or chip him, and it's 2-1, and we're all right, great.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then he cuts it back. Like it was the most baffling, and I've seen a lot of TFC over
I've
the
seen a
years.
lot of
That is
baffling
one of the most
plays
baffling
over the
things I
years,
have ever seen in a Toronto
especially
FC game.
considering the pedigree. You know,
Yeah.
this is you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. This is a guy who should know better. I don't care how fatigued he is. I don't care how what he's dealing with, which is supposition anyway. You know what I mean? This is, I mean, as Danny said, actual match fixing. Like I don't understand it. I
Well,
tweeted
I'm
out
more like
saying,
what Turd said, which
um,
is like he galaxy brained this. Like he literally just he just his mind just went like right, and then and like okay, get someone else, and it's crazy to
mhm,
me because what like not even 3-4 minutes later they get a free kick and he almost wins it from 30 yards out and he
yeah,
crashes it off the post. Like that is
mhm.
that's TFC. You ask me what TFC is. You ask about should we what is this team and like should we be writing off the talent and stuff like that? That's TFC. It's moments of madness and then like something out of
Inexplicable,
nothing. Inexplicable something out
inexplicable,
of
man.
nothing.
In it, like of all the players in the world that you expect to have on our roster, that you expect to have a muscle memory for calmness in the box and chaos, he's at the top of that list simply by pedigree and experience,
Oh,
right?
100%. Like,
And
look, I
and
even
then
tweeted it out. Like,
mhm,
even if the goalkeeper's coming out and is going to make himself big, and he's probably going to maybe block that because it's
you chip
true.
him.
Like, the goalkeeper was got off his line
Oh yeah,
quickly.
100%.
You still shoot it. You
Yeah,
still shoot it. Like you
100%
still
of the
shoot it.
time.
And plus he should know that at that point DeAndre Kerr is double marked because he literally slipped the 2 markers to
Hmm.
get into that space in the first place. So from that perspective, either you shoot it or you chip the goalkeeper and okay, maybe you miss, but you hope that maybe a rebound comes off when your
A
teammate is
rebound
in a
comes
good
out to the
spot.
8 other guys that are running up, that are doing
Right, and
dummy runs
you're
for you,
in.
right? Like
Yeah, right,
you're
exactly. Or
in.
you get a corner, or maybe he blocks it, you get a corner. Okay, great, you got a corner. Like it just, I mean, look, I don't know what was going through his mind. I'm not a professional footballer. He may have seen something that we'll never be able to see, but on the surface of looking at it, you got to shoot it. That's
You
what you're
got to
paid to
shoot it.
do. That's what you're
You
paid to
got. I
do.
mean, Danny, I'm not sure if this is true. My favorite part of Lorenzo is that he'll make that mistake, go home and post highlights of his Napoli days on Instagram. I mean, what the f? Seriously,
Well, you
like,
could see it was funny because they quickly panned out,
mhm,
and then and obviously the ball I think got cleared. But you just saw Federico and like looking to the heavens, like, what in the hell? Just like, I think everybody on the team was just like, what are you like? You're the guy. You're the guy. Like,
You're the
for
guy.
better or for worse, whatever you think of
You're
Lorenzo.
the freshest legs on the field.
Yeah, whatever
Yep.
you think of Lorenzo is whatever you think of Lorenzo. I'm not here to tell you which way or the other, but the last, if you don't make it, if this team doesn't make it, they still can make it, right? You win out, you get some. And Montreal's got a tough schedule going into the last couple of weeks here. But if you don't make it, the lasting image is your $15 million man who had a chance to win you a game, literally deferring to an academy product making like 14 times less than he is.
I mean, what a microcosm of the season, right? Like his Galazzos get us that hot start, and whatever the hell that was cost us our playoffs. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better narrative here. You know, Gord is saying the same thing. I don't know what to say. It left me speechless, and I don't know.
I don't think John Herdman had words. Like, he didn't really have words for it.
Yeah. I mean, G Money said it best. Like, everyone was hating on him after Wednesday. The soccer gods gave him a chance to right the ship and be the hero twice, and he didn't. I don't know. Speculate. Like, what do you think it is? Like, match fixing? He wants to be on vacation.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna like. I'm not gonna speculate. I don't know. I honestly. I think I think
break him. We tend to break players. I think
it's possible. It is quite possible. It is quite possible. Toronto FC does have this habit of breaking really good players, and they come here with great pedigree and then never play football again. You know what it is? And you and I, we saw each other at the ball game the last week, and I bring this down to a baseball term, which is called the yips. Like, I think he's got the yips. I literally think he may have the yips. Like, he got the ball within the 6 yard, essentially in right at the 6 yard, the line of the 6 yard box, basically. And look, 9 times out of 10, if he's somewhat on form, he's shooting that. Let's be real. Like, he's 9 times out of 10, he shoot. Even if it's a worse angle and the goalkeeper is like maybe now 2 feet away from him, he's probably shooting, right?
He's still shooting it.
Of course he is. So what in that moment made him defer? I don't know. I can't tell you, but it
could be as simple as the yips.
It feels like the yips.
One of them inexplicable things. Yeah.
It's a wild thing, even for a guy of his pedigree who's done a lot in this game. And like, as much as we're hating on him, let's not discount what he has done in this game. He's done a lot.
Done a shit ton. Yeah.
Wow. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, the yips are the problem with the yips is that it's one of those things that just happens. And you
no good explanation.
Read all the self-help books and do all of the calisthenics and all of the soul searching, but they're with you until they decide to leave. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I honestly think this team has the yips wholeheartedly. And Lorenzo is just the latest victim of this yip souffle we seem to be building.
They got to figure it out by Wednesday, because if they don't, they're done. Right? I mean, they may be done right now anyway, but
I think they're done right now. On that, Matty Doyle says that 3 points is enough to get us into the playoffs, but 6 would be great.
So yes, he's not wrong in the sense that the tiebreaker for getting into the play-in is overall wins. So we actually have that over everyone else below us. Like, we have 11 wins. If we can get to 12, we, in theory, by math, should be able to beat out at least one of the most likely 2 teams.
If it gets to goal differential, we're screwed, though.
No, it won't. I don't think it'll get to. I don't think it'll goal differential. I think it will get to overall wins. Will be the first tiebreaker. It is the first tiebreaker in this scenario. So that is it. But you got to win, and realistically, the Red Bull is probably your best opportunity to win, though we will take on a very pissed off Red Bull team on Wednesday.
They got murdered by they got
smacked the City in the derby. On the weekend.
And Fosberg's back, and their DP scored. Despite the fact that they got smacked in the Hudson River Derby, Their new DP Hotness is still on form, looking for goals, and
Yeah.
Forsberg's back. So, yikes.
Yeah,
Yikes.
we never play Red Bull well. We never ever play, barely ever, except the playoffs. Oddly enough.
Yeah. So here's G Money, and I mean, this is funny. TFC wins both games, and we watch them knocked out on decision day as Montreal and Philly take 7 points each. Yeah, I mean,
well, that's it, right? Like you don't do the job against DC, you don't get 3 points against Chicago. Those are the margins.
They are.
That's it. Nah.
I mean, it will be, unfortunately, decision day that we're not playing is going to be us watching all the other games to figure out.
It is the dumbest.
There's always one team that gets stuck. This year it's us. Let's put it this way. I'd rather have it be a year where we're rebuilding than a year where we're competitive, where we get stuck on decision day. So I'm seeing it as a blessing a little bit.
Fair enough.
But I don't think we're making the playoffs, and I don't think I'm speaking for you when I say I don't think you do either. And Luis Reyes put it best. Can you imagine this team winning another game? I can't. I mean, after this week, this team's ready for golf season.
You know what? This team is so up and down that I wouldn't be shocked if Wednesday night they come out and put out like a performance and smack the Red Bulls. Like I really wouldn't be that shocked. I wouldn't also be shocked if they just completely get run either.
Capitulate, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's just this team is just so up and down in terms of its form and its belief. Like they could absolutely get pumped in these last 2 games, and you could totally buy that. I could also buy a situation where they just rally the wagons and, you get a win against the Red Bull and maybe you get a result against Miami and you're in. And then I wouldn't even be against the fact that they go into the playoffs and all of a sudden they just catch fire somehow, because this team can do that. That's the maddening part about this team this year.
It's such madness
compared to at least last year. We knew they were shit. They were shit, and we just knew it, and it was done, and it was over.
Yep. I don't know anything anymore. Ami Mabika starts, and I go, okay, we're losing this game 100-0, and he puts in his shift that like, oh, that's an actual defender. Like, what is happening here? So yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I just who knows, man? Who knows? Wednesday night at BMO against the Red Bulls. It's going to be it should be a good atmosphere, because they'll need it if they have real aspirations of trying to get into this play.
Before we forget, amazing away support in Chicago, unbelievable
amazing away support.
Before we forget, amazing hands.
I feel like the Fire should always play at SeatGeek. I know like Soldier Field's downtown; it's a lot closer when people travel to Chicago. Like it's just you could walk it and go through their lovely parks, and
but they don't bring the numbers. It feels like a cavern with 5 people
feel
in
like
it.
A cavern. I went there last year. It feels like a cavern.
Yeah,
but like
they don't get the numbers.
SeatGeek is in the middle of nowhere in Bridgeview, but it's a nice little retro MLS first generation soccer specific stadium, and it's great. And great away section, like great little slice there for the away section.
It's rare to see them so like they were right at pitch level, which that's almost never done. But,
like I've done a couple of the away days there, and then like it's fun, great time. Also, they give you like the biggest cans of Tecate, like huge.
Oh, really?
Massive.
Really?
Love it.
Nice.
Absolutely love it. I think it's under a tenner too, which is great.
What?
I know, America, man, freedom.
Yikes! I bet you they have tailgating too, which
they do at SeatGeek. They do. Yeah.
God damn it!
I know.
God damn.
I know. You want to get to the Herds word?
Yeah, I can feel you preparing me for that. I'm actually gonna roll the intro first.
Can I see that paper for a sec? Huh, that's odd. What are you talking about? Oh, have you not heard? Heard what? Heard the word. Heard the word. Don't you know about the herd? Surfing!
Anything can happen in football these days.
Yeah, I mean, coming into a game against Chicago, you know that they have a very deliberate style, very direct team. They have a way of approaching and imposing themselves in their own stadium. You could see, first half, they were very direct, and there was a pretty strong wind, which made it, I think, difficult for us to be able to build with real purpose. But I thought we stuck to our task. We knew in the first half against the wind it was going to be tough. We'll be dealing with a lot of direct play, second phase balls. But I felt we nullified a lot of the threats, the channel run of Kuipers, the underneath of the central midfielders that would arrive typically. And then, for us, it was about hitting them on the counter attack, just being really physical. And I thought we stuck to our task, sort of come in 1-0 at half time. It was a really workmanlike performance given the way that we'd come off the match 2 days ago. So I was really happy with what it was feeling like. It felt like it was a proper playoff match, and we were going to dig in with a solid away performance. And I thought second half, we just had to kill the game in transition. I thought we had some wonderful transitional moments. We knew we were going to have to defend with real intensity and deny them. They didn't create as much as you'd have anticipated, given our line of engagement. So I thought we were comfortable. We needed to hit them in transition, and we did. We just never really got that killer punch. And then I think at that last goal, I mean, if we're fresh, that doesn't happen. People are sharper to stop the cross. People are sharper to win the first contact. So, and all in all, given that it's been a heavy week, I thought the lads put just a hell of a shift in. And then I think we should have won it in that last 6-7 minutes when we started throwing everything at it. We had some big moments and just can't seem to capitalize. So all in all, I thought the lads, given, as you've said, a tough week, a 3-game week, east to west travel, altitude, turf. I thought they're fighting for the club, they're fighting for the playoffs, and 6 minutes away from getting what would have been a massive 3 points tonight.
There it is, the longest heard clip in since we've been doing this. That was almost 3 minutes long.
Yeah. And look, I think he kind of said it all there, right? They were playing to the counter. I mean, the one thing that I will say is when you set up to defend like that, like asking your players who are already leggy to defend that much, that long, is you're just asking for asking because
trouble.
The natural tendency is you're going to keep dropping deeper as they get the ball, and that's exactly what happened, right? They just dropped so deep that literally they're kind of not quite on top of Sean Johnson's goal, but I mean, they dropped quite a bit in that second half, and that's how Chicago got back into this game, right? They literally can just pump balls into the box and create 100%. Havoc, and that's ends up being the tying goal.
Yep, my biggest takeaway from the almost 3 minutes is, and I was thinking about this on Thursday, how much can you honestly expect to get out of a pre and post game presser? I'm saying it because, the comments on YouTube and on the TFC tweet machine with respect to, his comments, I thought they put in a great shift, and they did what I asked out of them, and people coming back and saying really, John, really, la la la. It got me to thinking, and we this isn't the first time we've said this, but pre-game pressers, he's not going to tell you his game plan because of course, Chicago can listen. It's not even a drone at this point. It's just stupid. And then post game, what's he going to say beyond? They scored more goals than we did. We lost. Or, they scored a goal. We couldn't counter back. It was a draw and a loss of points. There's at the end of the day, I'm not campaigning for them to be eliminated because it's part of the wonderful mosaic that is professional sports. But at the end of the day, that was the 3-minute word salad. It was,
Yeah.
and I don't even think it was a particularly good word salad. I think everybody on that team's exhausted, right? And you can see it permeating right from the gaffer. I mean, he's out of things to say, right? He's out of platitudes to give that we haven't heard before, and yet here's 3 minutes of it, which gives me pause, right? We're not going to gloam a lot out of here. You're exhausted. Why are you talking for 3 minutes? Are you so tired that you're just a walking run-on sentence now? Because that my opinion on whether TFC makes the playoffs or doesn't um, lessens every time I see the exhaustion manifest in strange ways, such as a 3-minute non-answer when it could have been 15 seconds. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
this is the thing, right? This is what you know.
yeah,
You
no,
people
exactly.
kind of
No,
want
no
that,
one's
but
ever
he's
going to
never
say
going to
that.
do that. Like
He's
that.
never going to do that.
Well, he
Yeah.
can do it in ways that aren't as explicit as that, right? And he kind of has in the last couple of weeks, at least.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of done it in ways. Look, I think this partly down to like John Herdman and the way that he engages with the media, and goes back to his time with both national teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's all happy and engaging when he gets to control the narrative, when he gets to control the sound bite, right? When he can control what you're talking about, great smiles
Mm-hmm.
and all the Herdmanisms and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
But when kind of, like you say, when the S hits the fan and it's going to be something that he can't necessarily control, the tone changes, right? And look, and look, I think also you gotta
He's
be
not
honest.
driving the car.
Well, I mean, you're super disappointed, right? Like you come off some really tough results. He's not
Yeah.
necessarily going to sound like happy, smiley John Herdman, because like though John Herdman we've all gotten used to is the guy who like wins games and qualifies teams to World Cups and does well in tournaments and stuff like that. He hasn't really. I don't say that he hasn't dealt with failure before, but he hasn't really gone through an extended period of time in his real coaching career where he's just had to deal with bad result after bad result after bad result, week after week, day after day.
I think that coaches, even if they don't internalize it, and he's enough of a rookie that I don't think he has, but like you talk about somebody like Jose Mourinho, right? I don't think Jose is ever upset when the sack falls on him at this point in his career. I think he understands that you have a half-life of a certain amount of time.
I think he's an egomaniac.
I think to be a successful, maybe is the wrong example, but I do think you do have a thick skin about it. For me,
fair.
Just to tie it back to what you said, it suggests that he's not driving the car. He's answering for situations that he has been backed into. Like if you're not getting along with Scotty Arfield on the Canadian men's national team, the solution is you just don't call him up anymore. You're the buck stops with you, right? But you can't not call up Berna or Lorenzo. Like they're on your team for the next foreseeable future. And I think that disconnect is why we're seeing these kind of pressers.
Fair enough. And can we maybe touch quickly on the Mike Leach thing? Because I didn't fully hear his question. I know kind of what the general situation was.
Yeah, if memory serves, and I probably should have clipped it, but I didn't. I think he asked something that tied it, like the response that like he opened the floodgates for Herdman to basically say, are you even watching the team this year? Right, like it was a bit of a loose enough.
Because it was around Lorenzo and why he didn't start. Right?
Yeah. So it was to be fair, it was a bit of a leading question, and Herdman's not a slouch. If you give him the opportunity, why Lorenzo didn't start the game, it was just vague enough that you gave the coach the opportunity to kind of turn it around on you, and. To his credit, Mike Leach we were talking about thick skin. Mike Leach has one of the thickest. It rolled right off him. I think there probably was a better way to ask the question. But what's important to me is, people are celebrating, Herdman was a dog and he was really going after Mike Leach. He wasn't really. He just didn't want to answer the question because the answer isn't good. Why didn't Lorenzo start? Because he's injured again.
He's not fully
he's hurt again. Because he's been a three-wheeled automobile. He's been a Ferrari with three wheels and up on blocks since he arrived here. So, yeah, I mean, I think Herdman would love us to see it as a debate club. Like he pulled us. It was a smart move and it was a nice reversal. I see it as Herdman got defensive because he's out of patience, and that's bad, right? That to me is bad,
Maybe.
right? But I think this idea that Leach was looking for Herdman to say, "Oh, he didn't start because he's a piece of shit," was never going to happen.
No,
And
and I don't think that was the point of the question either.
No, I don't either. I don't actually know what the point of the question was, if we're being honest. Like, why didn't he start? Because he's injured.
Well,
know?
I think
yeah.
I think like the one thing with TFC media right now is that like it's the same faces all the time, and we love those faces, right? A lot of those faces have been on the show. And frankly, if we didn't have those faces,
Mike
we
Leach
would have we would have no inside coverage of the team whatsoever. But I think if you're looking at sort of Mike Leach or any other reporter that might be asking that question, might be writing or reporting to an audience that is not sickos and don't watch this team every single week and are
100%, 100%,
under the microscope every week like we are, right? So I don't think it's an unreasonable question if the point is to provide this context to a broader audience. Who isn't going to, like you say, go subscribe to Apple TV, MLS Season 100%. Pass, and watch TFC v Chicago Fire in a dead rubber game on a Saturday.
And listen, we know Mike personally. He wants to talk about TFC all the time. They don't want him to because the club has no relevance whatsoever. So maybe it really was the type of question that the people way in the nosebleeds that don't care, but remember the El Magnifico banners getting in their way 2 summers ago, want to ask, like, where the hell is Lorenzo Insigne? You know what I mean? And it could communicate, again, we're sickos. So we're like, well, why are you asking that question? Of course he's injured. Don't you know? Like Herdman's played him. He's gone, he's been subbed out in the 70th minute for the last 5 games. Well, the nosebleed section 500 level people don't know that. And that's his audience. So I think you're right. It's about taking a step back. And the question needed to be answered. His listeners, more than anything else, want to know, where is the $15 million man?
Right.
Simple as.
Yeah, simple as.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
got some questions there?
I do. You asked me this and I didn't turn it back on you, so here it goes. Is this a successful season for TFC? And let's just say,
I don't know if I'm ready to answer that question yet. I feel like you've got to see what these last 2 games are. But since you asked, I will answer. I won't set an offense. I think overall this is a successful season. I know a lot of people are going to take umbrage with that, but I think it is successful. Look, if you just take down the raw numbers, they've got 8 more wins, 9 more wins than they had all of last season. You're at 36 points. You win 1 more game, you're almost at 40 points. Call it 40 points for the season. You're in a play-in hunt at the end of the season. Like, it probably may not go the way you want it to, but you're in. We're like, look, this time last year, we were literally like clawing our faces off trying to do a show because we're like, what are we going to talk about? This team is
what are we going to do?
Right? At least we're still having a conversation about potentially going to the playoffs and this game on Wednesday actually mattering.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think it's successful. I also do think it's successful because
they're actually above where you put them preseason. 100%.
This is true. This is also true. But I also think, though. Yeah, not Turks. No 4th place for these guys. But I think also you look at this as successful because you are starting to find some players at better value that can give you something. They're not the end. They're by no stretch of the imagination am I saying Nixon Gomes is the answer. He should not be your answer. But
at that salary,
like that's a good piece. That's a good piece.
That's
to
a
have.
great piece. That's
right. You found Kevin Long, good piece, right? Matty Longstaff on the money that he's on, decent piece, right? You're starting to find pieces that make sense. You're going to be able to clear out some money at the end of this season. I think that's a success. I think you got some players off the books that were high leverage in Diamande and Io. That's good.
I think we can do way better than Matty Longstaff, if I'm being honest.
I also agree, but I mean, that's the off season. That's this coming off season. For this particular season, I think you have to deem it a success with a little bit of an asterisk that,
it's compared against 2023, which was
I mean, you're comparing it against the dumpster fire, right?
Yeah,
so as long as you're still in a dumpster, but at least it's not on fire.
No, it's still on fire, but you can breathe. Someone gave you a straw so you can breathe through your mouth.
I don't think it's that
not
bad.
it.
I think it's no longer on
I
fire. I just don't think you just right now there's like a little
Mhm.
like lock on the dumpster that you're just trying to bust it open a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna switch him around. Who's your TFC MVP? Is it Berna and it's just as simple as that? Is he the Red Patch Boys scarf this year, or do we have to look at the yellow cards and the
No, I don't think you need to galaxy brain this one. I think it is Bernadeschi. I think for a
Okay.
lot of different reasons. I think like one performance, but I also think
Sure.
like we love a player on a redemption arc, and in a lot of ways, the redemption arc is there now. Again, how much of this is public facing and how much of this is really we don't know. And
Is
frankly,
he your
that's not the
MVP
show.
if he's the first one out the door in the offseason? Does that change your opinion of his season?
No, I don't think so. Because
Knowing that
mean,
he might have been playing for a move as opposed to
maybe,
playing for the badge.
but he played well for us, right? Like
Okay.
in the end, again,
Okay.
I'm not
I agree
against.
with you. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm just asking.
I'm not
Yeah.
against a
Yeah.
player that's playing well to try to get a better contract or
Who cares?
get a move somewhere.
Who the hell
As long
cares?
as he's doing
Everybody
it for my
is.
team, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody,
even
exactly.
everybody is. Everybody is.
Business. But I
Okay,
think,
now,
yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, just so in that sense, like the on field stuff, yes, I think he has rehabilitated a little bit of the relationship with the fans. I think that is also a big thing.
A lot, huge,
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, and I think that for that reason, I think and I mean, like, look, he's your best player. He is the guy that creates. He's a stir that at this moment stirs the drink. I think you need another
Mhm.
player that can actually do that job and just let him
Yeah,
kind of
before
be
the
him.
paper straw melts every
Yeah,
year. Yeah,
but for
exactly.
now, yeah,
Mhm.
he's your player of the year.
Okay. I don't know yet because I agree with everything that you've said. People are saying, I mean, Oso good shout based on record. No, Oso's not my player of the year this year. There's too many
Nah,
there's too many issues that I've
too many
had.
games.
Yeah, Richie's not even there. Kevin Long's a good shout. Sean John would probably be my second place. Neck and neck with Berna,
Yeah,
just because
I have no argument
Sean,
here.
Sean John, remember, re-signed with the club, etc., etc. It's certainly not Lorenzo.
I will say
this
I will
one's
say
good.
one thing though. I will give a vote to Prince Owosu though. And I know that's not very popular in the fan base. But look, he
Doing the
does
work
have
got
eight, I think
hot.
he's got
Yeah,
8 goals this year, 9 goals this year.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay, is that is that exactly the output we were hoping for? No, but I think that's that for what he's being paid. He's close to double digits in goals.
Yeah.
That's not a bad place to be.
See, my problem with Prince is like, okay, so I just think that we know who he is. This inconsistency is who he is.
Yeah.
Occasionally, the brain farts in the box are who he is. It's not working enough to be the number 9 in this team with these pieces.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's worth trying with other pieces to get a bit like I just don't know. I don't think he's the guy. I mean, I'm sure he's not the guy.
He's not the guy. He's a good guy to
and-
come off the bench, but not the guy.
But I think we can do better. I honestly think we can do better because
Probably right.
what we want, his profile, like the hold up guy who's the fox in the box, is what we want as our starting striker. So for the backup guy, we want somebody different, like a DeAndre or a to St. Ricketts type. Like, I don't want the backup guy to be of the same skill set as the starting caliber guy, right? Well, like, it's having too much of the same thing. Anyway, it's a good vote for Prince. Because we were ready to send him to the glue factory. And this season was like everything else. Oh no, he's great. Oh, actually he's not. Oh no, he's good again. Oh, no, actually he's not so good. So, we'll give him the MVP because no, we won't, but we'll give him at least, like with the case of, is this a successful season? We know what Prince Owosu is. And maybe it's unfair to limit him to that, but in this context, in the year of our Lord 2024 with this TFC, that's who the player is. I think we can do better. Here's the last one. Well, John Herdman lost some luster for you? I think we can both agree he's been coaching with his hands tied behind his back and both kneecaps shattered into glass right now. I think that we can agree on that. But is he the same person to you at the tail end of this season as he was at the beginning of this season?
No,
Okay.
no. Yeah, no, and it's not all negative in that sense. I think, look, we think about John Herdman, and we think about, again, like I said earlier, the guy who coached the national team, brotherhood, 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 vibes,
Mm-hmm.
vibes, vibes, like all about building great teams and building great locker rooms and chemistry and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's not so much the luster has come off, I think just the reality of what club football management is just there, right? Like it's not all going to be vibes. It's not going to all be like we're going to have this like fun, 2 weeks together where we're really just a brotherhood and we just do like it.
Mm-hmm.
There's real shit when you're with
Yeah.
guys every single day for like 8 months a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's more what I mean in terms of that. I also do think that to a certain extent, there are some parts of his sort of public coaching persona that don't rub me the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say he's not a good coach. I think he is actually a good coach, but I just don't think some of that rubs, and that's just a personal thing, right? That doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. You could
No.
love him, doing the badge pounding and the getting into some coaches' faces and stuff like that, and sort of
Sure.
the having your guys go out there with this sort of chip on their shoulder kind of thing. That's a personal
Neither
thing
here
to
nor there.
you.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, I just don't think I need a manager that necessarily needs to do that every week. I think it grows thin, it wears thin on players after a while, and you can
Mm-hmm.
only take that so far. So then the question is, what's next? And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing you got to think about next year is what's the next evolution of John Herdman as a coach next season, because he can't come back and do the exact same thing this year. It will just
No, we
wear
can't.
thin.
No, we can't. I mean, I'll answer this one myself, although I do think we're going to have a whole segment on it in postseason shows. Um, he has, only because I expected the bump at the beginning. I expected the strong start. This is John Herdman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't expect there to be almost no course correction. Now, I preface that by saying how much of that is in his purview, how much of that is entirely out of his hands, I don't know. So I don't want to put his feet over coals, but I expected a course correction. This is the guy that walked in to a dysfunctional Canadian men's national team and said, "We're going to be in the 2020 World Cup." Everybody laughed him out of the room, right? That's at least equal to what he inherited at TFC. And he turned it around. And it didn't happen overnight, and there were lots of hiccups on the way. They didn't better. He proved to be better than those hiccups. Here we're in a holding pattern, right? We're in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
And I that is why he's lost some luster, because whether it's the club team, and we're in a holding pattern for the obvious reasons, there are two giant anchors dragging this team to hell, and no one can stop our descent to the ocean floor, or nothing. I don't, but that's not his fault. So I'm trying to equate, right? And then trying to figure out what can he do, and that's where it's going to be interesting. But yeah, he's lost some luster, with the caveat he can bring it back times 1,000 if he John Herdman's his way out of this, right?
And
Because
that's
you
a
and I are sitting
realistic
here and going,
possibility.
we don't know what the hell this team is going to do. They are stuck with Lorenzo. They are stuck with Fede. Maybe Fede plays himself into a new contract. It's not happening with Lorenzo, right? We spent the end of last show me going, hey, Tertz has a great idea. We spend the money we were going to spend buying out Lorenzo by paying him to sit on the bench, come on the 70th minute every fourth game. Who cares? All bets are out. No one gives an S anymore. Who what your name is what you can do for the team. If Herdman finds a way to make that work, or some other crazy chaos, completely off the beaten track kind of solution to this problem that is manifesting, he wins it back times a million. And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted this year. I wanted options this year. And that's why he's lost a bit of luster for me. The fact that he's sitting on his hands, just same old, and we're all there with him is painful. And I think it's doubly painful on him. I'd like to see some movement there.
Yeah. I mean, in the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
like you kind of said earlier, it's not like international football where you just get a couple of guys who are underperforming or you just don't fit what you want to do and you just don't call them up again, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that option really here, you know? Those guys
Well, you
have to
do.
play.
You do. It's just everyone's going to look at you funny. But you know what? Everyone looked at him funny when he came in and said, we're going to make World Cup in 2020. And he did it. And that quiet confidence, that
Not the same
self-belief
scenario.
in his I know it isn't. I know it isn't, but it's also not entirely different, right? It still is kind of figuring out how to get rid of the flotsam.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I just think that if anybody's going to come up with a way to hit it sideways and find a solution, why not him? So,
Well,
you know, you hired him for a reason. The priority, the best case scenario was getting the Italians on side, and that was the beginning of the season, right? But we're sort of back in that holding pattern again. You hired him for a reason. Let him cook. Let him cook. I don't think anything should be off the table because, like you said, another year of this, everyone is chasing him out of town with pitchforks, including himself probably. So, you know, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
that when I wrote that one down, I knew it would be a powder keg of a question, and I do think it's fodder for a much longer discussion. But
yeah, we'll have
I
that in
wanted
the
your
off
take
season
on
because I
it.
think
Yeah.
that and the successful season thing we can have in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we should wrap it up there.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you everybody for tuning into another Toronto Till I Die. Follow us on all the socials. Just search Toronto Till I Die on Google, and you can find us on all of those social platforms. If you haven't already and you're watching this video, please subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. It will give you notification when we are going to go live with a show. If you are listening to this on podcast version, please leave a review and a 5-star rating if you're listening on Spotify or one of those platforms that allow you to do that. That helps people find the show. All right. For Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Mike Newell. We will see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
And wait!
Where does Missy? Where does Missy?
Where is Missy?
Missy down. Where does Missy? Where does Missy? Everybody see Missy. Where does Missy?